Happy 3rd of July, everyone out there in I Love Photography land. This is Allen Murabayashi being joined, as usual, by Sarah Jacobs. Hey, Sarah Jacobs.
Hey, Alan, how you doing?
I'm doing okay. If you hear some banging noises as we're going along, I assure you that is not our new theme music. That is actually some construction going on above my head. So I apologize for that in advance. If it's really bothering you, though, you know what, Sarah? They can
What?
always send us a tweet with the hashtag #ILovePhoto.
That's true. In fact, I'm sending out a tweet right now with the
Tweet that
hashtag
away.
#ILovePhoto.
Twitter, all right. For those of you watching us on YouTube at youtube.com/photoshelter, welcome. And for those of you listening to the podcast from iTunes at I Love Photography, you might want to check out the video version of that, because then you can see the photos in case we forget to describe them, which we often do because we're looking at ourselves while we do this.
Right.
Let's try to be better about describing what we're seeing. How's that?
Okay. Yeah, all right.
Well, as you know, Sarah, it has been a big world. Oh my God! No, I'm totally blanking. What do we
Is
call
it the
that
big
soccer
World
game?
Cup? Is that what
The
you're
World
talking
Cup,
about?
yeah, that whole World Cup. I was like, World Series? That's not quite it. The World Cup. That whole thing going on in Brazil. A lot of soccer. U.S. team.
We lost.
We lost, but we made it to the round of 16 after surviving the group of death, as they called it.
The group of death.
Group of death we were in, and we got out with Germany. And then we played Belgium, and even though we lost 2-1, the U.S. goalkeeper, Tim Howard, had the best game since 1966 with 15 saves.
16, right?
16
I think it was 16.
saves.
Yeah.
16 saves. And so, as expected, there were a lot of things about Tim Howard going on. And we wanted to start with just this little composite. And, you know, speaking about it photographically, this is on the New York Times. It's a composite of all of Tim Howard's 16 saves against Belgium in, I don't know, there's like 4 different sort of semi-panoramic strips where they composited where he was when he made the save. And I thought it was a cool infographic in terms of, you know, how photography can be used to illustrate how much activity was going on with just the saves alone.
Yeah,
Like,
and they photoshopped other players out of
yeah,
the
definitely.
images.
Yeah.
So you're just seeing him in action multiple times within each frame.
And you have a real appreciation. So in the first half, he had 3 saves. In the second half, he had 7.
Wow. He's
1,
just
2, 3,
jumping
4, 5,
all
6,
over
7,
the
8.
place.
Well, actually 8. I'm sorry, he had 8 saves. Yeah, he's jumping all over the place. And then 4 more in the first period of extra time, and then 1 more in the second period of extra time when they lost. And finally, in that last frame, they show the players.
Where would we?
Of Belgium.
Right. Where would we be without Tim Howard?
We would have lost like 18-1.
It would have been very embarrassing.
Very embarrassing. That guy's a stud. And so, as you can imagine, the tributes started coming in pretty quickly. And so, first of all, on his Wikipedia entry, not on his Wikipedia entry, but on the Wikipedia entry for the U.S. Secretary of Defense, somebody temporarily snuck in Tim Howard as the Secretary of Defense, which I thought was amazing. But then we had all of these memes show up, and for those of you who don't know, meme was a term conjured up by Richard Dawkins, a Harvard geneticist, in the 70s to describe a cultural unit, a unit of culture that gets transmitted to other people, and people kind of get into it. And these memes were Tim Howard being inserted into different photos and saving things. So in this first one, it's Tim Howard in The Lion King, I believe. This is The Lion King, saving the Lion King. But for you Game of Thrones fans, this was my favorite. Tim Howard saving Ned Stark from the final scene of season 1, where his head gets chopped off. He can save
Tim
anything.
Howard, go!
Yeah, he's like the Jack Bauer of defense. So congratulations to Tim Howard. Almost congratulations to you know what? Congratulations to the U.S. team. They had a fine showing to help increase the presence of U.S. soccer, and hopefully we'll do better in 4 years for that World Series thing.
Yeah, The World Series edition, the Stanley Cup edition.
Yeah, the Stanley Cup of soccer is
We
what they
know
call
sports. We know sports here on I Love Photo.
it. And there were even more sports that we came across. The first, now I got to pull this up now. It was auto playing, so I had to take a break before it came up. So on the New York Times, a very cool interactive feature. Dylan Coulter is the photographer, cinematographer, director person. And you're seeing these cool, super slow-mo movies of the soccer players coming into a pool of light with the ball and then kicking the ball.
These are so majestic. I love them. And the way that they move their feet. I mean, it's almost like dancers or something. It's very calculated and almost graceful in this, especially in this slow-mo version.
Yeah, and they got the best guys too.
Yeah.
It's kind of amazing, you know, you look at like Ronaldo, who's considered to be the best, if not one of the best, seeing the footwork at that speed, like how they can just not trip over the ball. Pretty amazing. I certainly cannot do that.
Also, what's great about these is the sound for them. Usually, you know, I kind of get annoyed with any sound over video. It's kind of like when they're trying to set a mood with some cheesy music, but the sound for these is very mesmerizing and fits perfectly. And
You like that?
Yeah, hats off to the sound guy on this.
It's kind of ambient, cool stuff.
Yes.
And not to be outdone, Jonas Bendiksen from Magnum went to Brazil as well with a high-speed camera. But he didn't go to the stadiums. He went to kind of the outskirts, or where people were just, you know, in the favelas or on the beaches, to kind of show people living their daily life or kind of interacting with soccer on the periphery. And these were also very, very cool.
These are gorgeous. I really feel like this is every frame. So it's like a 30-second slow motion video portrait. And I feel like every single frame, no matter where you paused it, would still be an amazing still photograph. And that's what's so beautiful about these. And I really feel like photographers trying to do film need to do more stuff like this rather than just trying to get into cinematography in general. These are something that's very special and different, and I love it.
Yeah.
And I also feel like this is something that could be elevated with some sound. I played music while I watched them, and it kind of like enhanced and elevated it.
Oh, now you're the sound engineer.
Yeah, exactly.
Let me tell you something about slow-mo and sound.
It works well together, okay?
It does. God, these are great. There are 23 of them that he's posted so far on his website. All the links that we're talking about today you can get at our blog at blog.photoshelter.com if you so choose. He also did a whole desaturating thing with the color, so they have kind of a filmy look to them, which is cool. I think it matches. It really matches for some reason. Yeah,
it's gorgeous. I love this one in particular where there's buildings in the background, and in the foreground it's soccer players, and it just feels so. The movement is very isolated because it's only on the field, and I think that really makes it great. Love
it's
this
interesting.
Stuff.
Towards the end of this one, where the guys in the background really aren't moving that much, it almost looks like a cinematograph where only one element is moving.
Yeah. These They are reminiscent of the cinematograph sometimes, but they're so much better, I think.
Oh yeah. I totally agree with that. Switching gears from the World Cup of soccer, we moved to, this is great. For those of you who know him, Barton Silverman has been at the New York Times forever, and he's been shooting with them since the 60s. And is one of the preeminent sports photographers for the Times and for the nation. He has a very iconic photo of Joe Namath kind of leaping in the air and throwing a football. A very wide shot, something you just wouldn't really see anymore. But as a student in college, he got the call from the Times to go photograph workers building the Verazzano-Narrows bridge, which is a bridge that connects Staten Island to Brooklyn. It's a very expensive bridge to cross nowadays. I think it's about $16 to pay the toll.
Oh, wow.
But he tells the story about how he's kind of going up there and he's kind of scared of heights. So it makes just for a very interesting first-person telling of this.
Yeah, apparently he almost fell off while up there photographing it, which is just terrifying, especially when you look at these images and you really get a feel for how high up he was.
They're very, very high up, for sure.
And I also thought, you know, he talks about the Life photo editor looking at his portfolio and telling him as a student, you need to go out and photograph like your own project. You know, and this was back in 1962. So it's like photo editors have been telling photographers the same thing over and over. Guys, you need to do your own project.
Yeah.
And this was his. Yeah.
Well, and he was, I believe, 19 at the time, and I'm looking at these photos, and the guy had an eye. I mean, to be shooting this stuff at 19, that's pretty impressive. Pretty impressive stuff. That's on the Lens blog, our good friend Jim Estrin, who runs the Lens blog over there. Check that out. I was kind of perusing some friends' blogs. They're not photographers, but they're creatives, and I came across this project by Florian Beaudenon called Instant Life, and what it is overhead photos of people just doing some thing in their life. So in this first frame we have a woman applying makeup from above. And I don't know, you know, we've seen those photos of from above of people's houses and whatnot. These sort of resonated with me for some reason. I thought they were artfully composed. I thought they were well shot. I thought they're interesting photos. Here's one of a woman in bed with red hair and her cat in the bottom of the frame, and another cat in bed with her. And she's wearing like black and red socks.
Yeah, these are very playful, and they're well lit. I really like the lighting for all of them.
Yeah, there's clearly a light source that's kind of reflecting off the ground in a lot of these frames. So if that's ambient or whether she's using a flash up there, whatever it is, they look great. And it's interesting because there's no faces in the frames. It's always kind of the top of someone's head.
Right, but you're still getting kind of a whole picture of this person based off what they're doing and what their room looks like, which I think is interesting.
Yeah, it's very much an environmental portrait sans face.
Right, exactly.
Which is very, very cool. I like it. What is that? That's one of those ferret. Is it a ferret?
It's a ferret.
It's the World Cup of ferrets. We're not doing so well with the word identification today.
Not today. That's okay.
Yeah. Florian Beaudenon. Had never heard of Florian before. He's doing good work. I don't even know where he's from. I should look up a little bit more of his stuff. But yeah, so yeah, my point in that whole thing was, don't just go to photo blogs. Your friends are probably finding stuff that aren't making it into the mainstream blogs. This is one of them. It's very cool stuff.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, well, I think I found this on Facebook, so maybe it's not quite the same thing. David Oliete goes to Italy every year. Oh, this is Spain, Catalonia, where they do this whole human tower thing. People climb on top of each other and try to make a really tall tower, and he's shooting almost overhead. There's slight skews, not quite overhead of them, but pretty much overhead, and they're just the coolest patterns. All of these people in this first frame are reaching into the center, trying to create a tower. In the second frame, they're all wearing the same color shirts. You see these concentric circle patterns. I mean, these are beautiful.
They're beautiful. The editing, the post-processing he does on these, he adds some like, vignetting, and you know, it just really makes the color of everybody's T-shirt pop, and then also the tops of their heads. I mean, it's really gorgeous. I had never heard of this people tower thing, so he has a little video to show how they create these massive towers, and it's just phenomenal.
Yeah, it's crazy. You know, the interesting thing about the vignetting too, I think it helps accentuate the circularness of of the people in the photo.
Yeah, yeah.
And it really kind of gives that swirl effect to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's definitely a swirl effect, and you kind of nosedive right into the center of the photograph when you're viewing it. It's nice.
Super cool stuff. I just love finding like new stuff.
Yeah, we found a lot this week.
We found a lot of new stuff. Yeah, check it out on the blog. The Magnum has an exhibition in New York City right now where they are showing you the contact sheets or simulated slide sheets of iconic photos, and including this one by Steve McCurry. And you can see like this slide contact sheet with all of these annotations on them and markings, and even though we're looking at this on a little slideshow on the Wired.com website, you can really see how much he's working a scene, kind of moving in and out, going close, going far, walking a few yards to the left, to the right. I find this fascinating.
Yeah, there's really no frame, maybe like two, that are exactly alike, and that is so interesting to kind of peer into his process and see where he's moving to try to get the shot.
Yeah, and it sort of makes you appreciate, I think when you see a full take this way, which we so rarely see unless it's kind of our own stuff or we're helping a friend with an edit, it gives you new appreciation for the photos that actually do get published. Because you just assume the guy's showing, I think the average person just kind of assumes the guy shows up with a fancy camera, he pops one frame, and then he's done. And then you get these iconic photos, and that's so far from the truth.
Right.
I really, the show's not up for very long, and it's at Milk Gallery in Manhattan. Maybe we should take a little trip over there.
Yeah, we should definitely do a field trip. This is definitely a show for photographers, I think. I don't think the masses, this isn't really for the masses. They want to see that one image that was picked. Right. And this is kind of like, this is a photographer's show, to go look, see these amazing photographers, process. And the photo editors as well. What are they picking, and how did they find the right frame? It's all really intriguing.
Yeah, neat stuff. We both found this article in the Times about sumo wrestlers, which was interesting, but I think we both liked the portraits taken by Benjamin Rasmussen.
Yes.
Very, very cool environmental portraits taken at a sumo wrestling competition in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. This is an amateur sumo wrestling competition, so it's not like your classic Japanese huge dudes. They're bigger people, but they're not 500-pound people. There are women in there, like this first frame that we're looking at. Just lovely portraits.
So lovely. Benjamin does a fabulous job of taking these very quiet portraits of these, pretty big guys that are out there slamming bodies around.
Yeah, I like this one. This was kind of like a Jedi Knight, and then he takes off his clothes, which I thought was funny.
Haven't you been to Jackson Hole, Wyoming, Alan?
I have. I don't think I was there when they were doing the sumo tournament, though.
Oh, bummer.
And this is funny. So this is Brittany Moreau, who weighed in at 118 pounds. Does not look like a sumo wrestler. And
not at all.
The article references the fact that there's not a whole lot of female sumo wrestlers. Hasn't really caught on, as you can imagine. So, Sarah, I was going through these photos. I was like, oh yeah, these are interesting. This is cool. And then all of a sudden, I came upon this one photo here. Let me find it. Of this guy, Kenna Heffernan, who turns out went to my high school and to college with me.
Oh, wow.
He's 2 years younger than me, 2 or 3 years younger than me, and he's been the amateur champion for 4 years.
Wow, you need to call him up.
It's just very strange. I was like, what?
That's the kind of dude you want on your side.
Yeah, pretty much. So the guy played, he was like a multi-sport athlete in high school, and then he played football at Harvard. So he's 5'11" and weighs like 250 or something like that. It's a lot of weight for a 5'11" guy.
Wow.
And I get so now he's 2 or 3 years younger than me. He's still wrestling. It's kind of kind of amazing. But he came from a an athletic family, and obviously all the sports kind of, I think, it trained his body. But just random to see a photo essay, and then all of a sudden somebody and you're like, oh, that's a really nice photo of them. Cool. I love that. Over on the NPR website, kind of a funny story. So NPR photographer David Gilkey was sent off to Cuba to help photograph some stories that they were working on. And his photo editor told him, David, no photos of cars. Because every freaking photographer who goes over to Cuba has to shoot these photos of cars. And it's almost like, you get the kid in the street playing baseball, and then you get the old car photo. And that's like, okay, can someone take something new?
And throw a cigar in there.
Yeah, throw a grandma either making or smoking a cigar. Just all of these very stereotypical things. Well, David Gilkey gets over to Cuba, and he comes back, and he's like, look at all my photos of cars. And he says, you just can't escape them. They're there, and they're so woven into the fabric. Obviously it's still this communist nation that isn't allowed to import cars, so they have these cars that have been around for 50, 60 years that get handed down, and people take really good care of them. And they're beautiful. And he took, this one isn't my favorite, but
no,
some nice photos.
This is my favorite, the pink car. Oh my goodness.
Pink shirt, pink Cadillac.
Yeah, it's so dreamy, and I do like the way he edited these. They're pretty dark photos for the most part. Yeah. It's just a cool essay. Yeah, he doesn't blow his highlights. Right.
There's just a lot of shadow detail in these photos, which I think helps make them. It gives them sort of a nostalgic look, almost like he shot them on Kodachrome or something like that, which is cool. But it's a very funny. So it's his photo editor sort of interviewing him about. I thought we said no car photos, and then David going through and explaining why he had to take car photos. But yeah, I didn't even know NPR had photographers. It's they make radio programs. Shows you how much we know about how they're trying to expand the dealio. Right.
Shows how much we know about photo. Hashtag I love photo on Twitter.
Hashtag I love photo. Was it last week or the week before where we celebrated the anniversary of World War II?
We were
maybe 2 weeks ago. Well, anyway, we talked about all of these photos that emerged from the storming of Normandy. D-Day was, I think, specifically what we were talking about. And we talked about the rare color photos that people had found from World War II, because for the most part, people were shooting black and white. And then, over on New York Mag, I found this little essay that there are actually color photos from World War I. And I was like, what? At first I thought it was World War II, and I was like, yeah, we already know about that. And then it turns out that it's World War I, and I was like, what? And it's just interesting talking about, what we know as modern color chemistry didn't exist there yet. So there were different types of photographic emulsion. This one is talking about a technology called autochrome, invented in 1903 by Auguste and Louis Lumière. The photographic emulsion is overlaid with specks of potato starch, dyed red, green, and blue, and coated on a glass plate. So just kind of wacky, and they're not vibrant.
No, it's like almost looks hand painted.
It almost looks hand painted.
Yeah, selected color hand painted.
And there's a weird, I don't know whether it's the aging process or not, but there's kind of a weird RGB thing going on, and even some like the neutral wall has this kind of RGB-ish pattern to it. But so interesting to see kind of the history of photography in front of you like this. World War I, man, that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
There's a banging. That's our new theme song, as I mentioned. nymag.com. Remember, you can get all the links at our blog at blog.photoshelter.com. Self-publishing is all the rage, Sarah. And in fact, the upcoming issue of PDN talks about self-publishing, making your own books. So apropos that we found this article in the Financial Times at ft.com talking about do-it-yourself photography books. and talking about the Afronauts. I was aware of this series. I didn't realize that the book had caused such a storm, but Christina de Middel's series, or Midel, the Afronauts, talking about African astronauts, or kind of putting them into that spot, and saying how she self-published and sold it for 28 euros. Martin Parr picked up 5 of them in the 1,000 print run, and now they're going for £1,000. £1,000, that's almost $2,000 a copy.
Wow, yeah. I'm really happy that this series kind of is the forefront of self-publishing. It's such an incredible, the Afronaut series is so incredible. I love it.
Yeah, super cool photos. I think a lot of publishing options, I wouldn't say that they're necessarily affordable, but companies like Blurb and other MagCloud from HP make it more affordable than in the past. It's no longer, a $50,000 commitment. It could be a $5,000 commitment. So I guess when it's 1/10 of the price, it's relatively affordable.
Yeah, and actually MagCloud and Blurb recently joined forces, so they work together now, which is great.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
You've done a little self-publishing.
Yeah, through MagCloud, on-demand publishing, which is great, on-demand print.
And that's something that 10 years ago you wouldn't have been able to do, or it would have been like Kinko's and not so great.
Right, yeah, that would have been more DIY zine.
Black and white Xeroxes.
Exactly.
The last piece today, we always try to end on a fun note, is, there's this Tumblr called Awkward Family Photos that's made the rounds occasionally on Facebook and other social media. And now the California Heritage Museum in Santa Monica, where I was just at, but the show wasn't up yet.
Oh, too bad.
Yeah, is doing an exhibit of awkward family photos through July 27th. A museum tour is planned, so don't worry.
I know, I really hope they come to New York.
I know, they're such goofy photos.
Completely goofy. I wonder who within each family is submitting these terrible, amazing photos.
Yeah, or whether they're being basically misappropriated for people's entertainment value.
Right, which would be mean, but still very entertaining.
Yeah, it's funny because, people say, we talk about stock photography a lot and how difficult it is because, particularly when you're doing lifestyle, hairstyles and clothing go out of date so quickly. Even something like a pair of jeans, which you think, it's a pair of jeans, I could wear these for 10 years. Actually, you couldn't, because like the waist moves up and down, and the slimness of the jeans moves up and down, and the length and the flare moves up and in and out and up and down, and all of this stuff comes through. So even like this guy's wearing a 3-piece suit, but look at his wife's haircut. Like, this is not from the 2000s.
And the poor son that's just off right. Oh, poor little guy.
The length of the shorts, those kind of feathered haircuts.
Oh, yeah, these are so dated.
And I don't think they really use those planetary backgrounds anymore.
Nope. Unless you want a jokey photo to make fun of this exact thing.
Yeah, or a purple leotard in glasses and a headband. Not the greatest look.
No.
Not the greatest. So if you're in California, in Los Angeles, you got to make it over to the Heritage Museum. These are very, very funny things. Sarah, I thought because today is the 3rd of July that we'd find some flag photo tributes or something, but I guess all of that comes out tomorrow on the 4th of July.
Yes, we'll have to review it next week.
Yeah, like the best parade photos, or there's always fireworks photos, which I just hate. You know what I see every year is how to take better photos of fireworks.
Yep.
And in my opinion, there are no good photos of fireworks. They're all just bad.
They're all just terrible.
They're just come on.
I I enjoy a nice fireworks photograph.
Okay. Well, I like seeing them in real life. I just, I feel like a photo just doesn't do them justice. No,
that's true. Well, there should be some slow-mo movie for the fireworks. That's what should come out this year.
There should be.
Or
Well, that's my
GIFs.
phone ringing, so I guess that means it's time to go.
Okay.
We'll see you next week, Sarah.
All right. Thanks, Alan.
So for Sarah Jacobs, this is Allen Murabayashi signing off. I love photography.